Good morning. So the video is kind of intended to be kind of tongue-in-cheek, kind of funny, but it's legitimate that I used to use this exact Wagner heat gun to do several repairs at the shop. Um, I'll go over a couple of those with you. I'll even show you a couple of them as well. Um, and once I got my actual heat station that you can control temperature with and fan air speed, things like that, this kind of rendered this useless and all that. And I've kind of said before that I sort of stopped using, I stopped doing jack replacements because using a simple soldering iron, it was kind of a pain in the ass. I kept having to get better ones and hotter ones, and before I was really studied in the way of low melt solder and practice as well. So I kind of stopped doing it because half the time I'd end up screwing up the board. But nowadays, using the equipment that I have, it's literally it's like a walk in the park to do a jack replacement. It's easy to do it now once you have the right tools. So let me grab something and then I'll do a little backstory here. Okay, so I've got a kind of an older HP board. HP was the biggest issue back in the day with nVidia chips specifically. And the problem here was this. See, you've got certain chips. It's easier to see with my new camera, but it's not perfect. Certain chips, they actually hold onto the board with little, we'll call them wires, leads or whatever, and they're soldered to pads on the board. But then you've got other chips. There's not a lot of examples of them on this, but the CPU here is a good example. It literally sits on balls of solder. And when I mean balls of solder, here's where the upgraded video chip would have gone. So, I mean, if you pause this and do the math, there's probably many hundreds of balls of solder there. So what happened is that these chips would get hot, and one or two or 26 of these balls would actually disconnect from the chip. You've got two here too. I don't know what that's about. That might be, I don't know if that's RAM, but other chips could go there. But I think that's what that is actually. 1, 2, 3, 4. Anyway, either way, this is where the video chip would have been if this was a upgraded board model of this board. And so it would sit on here, and once the thing got hot, like if it couldn't put out couldn't circulate the air because of cat hair and dust and stuff, these would get really hot. So there was actually a class action lawsuit against nVidia regarding these. And one of the worst offenders was the HP DV series, the DV 6000, 2000, 9000, and the DV 6s and 7s. They were all big time problems with these chips. So you'd be on your computer one day, and out of nowhere, then there's no video, and they would literally tell you new motherboard. So this lawsuit came and went. I don't even know what happened with it. But if you've ever seen a motherboard, that is why there's glue around these chips now. Because if this got hot enough to, melt solder, it wouldn't go anywhere. It wouldn't move the chip or something. But that's just a little safety for the chip itself to not move. But I started to see that a couple years after. So what I would do is I would buy, I think one time I bought around 10 of these boards. Not boards, the computers, like the DV series HPs. This would have been probably 12 years ago. I bought 10 of them, maybe 9 or 10 of them, for next to nothing, like $50 a piece. And they were good computers otherwise, so that's why I did it. And I was actually able to reflow, which is heating up a chip to the point where it remelts the solder, and then you let it solidify and cool off, and then all of a sudden it works. And out of those 10, I got 7 or 8 to work. Then there was a company down in Miami that when a computer would die, I would send them the board, and they would reflow it, and they would have like special equipment to do it. Not what I had. I actually used this and this. And it sounds funny, but this worked almost all the time. All the ones I fixed with this. I have never done a reflow as of yet with my hot air station right here. But there's also other things you can do with this. If you've got, let's say, a jack you want to replace yourself, but trying to get 5 solder points to melt at the same time is a complete pain, very difficult to do, and then you end up just demolishing your board and getting frustrated. So a hot air station is the way to go. But the problem with hot air station is that these are not cheap. And why would you go, and it's kind of like if you're tuning up your car, why would you go buy like a dynamometer or whatever just for one car to work on it? So it makes no sense to have the expense, several $100s, for a hot air station to replace one jack. So this is a way that you can do it cheaply. I think I paid $20, like $19 for this. This is not new. This is at least 10 years old. And of course, that's from my kitchen. So what I did here was I folded up and pressed down some of this, and then used a knife to cut away a hole. And this hole was designed to basically fit over a chip like that. So that way I'm not heating up plastic and everything else, just getting the heat on that like that. It can be used other ways, which I'll show you. But basically, the way I'll actually just kind of show you a little bit on how I did this. We'll just pretend that's an nVidia chip. So what I would do is just literally hold this like that for about, maybe 15 seconds. Then I would kind of just tap it. I don't know why I did that, but I used to do that. I would tap it a little bit, and then just let go. I mean, that's just showing you an example. Now, these do get hot, so be very careful if you ever try this. And then I would let this cool off, and would go ahead and try it out. In many cases, it would work. That's really not practical anymore, but here's what is. Replacing one of these. You don't want to solder it back in place with this. You really don't. That would make no sense. But you can remove it with this. So, looking at this board, you will see, this is the jack. You will see that the holes are coming from the top of the board, which these go down through here. Okay? So, ideally, you'd want to hit it with heat right here and then just lift it right out. Or you could put it upside down and prop it up and then heat it up and then just push it through. Now, which is the best way? What I do is look for plastic. This looks pretty decent. Right here, though, you've got plastic right here. and a little chip right there. I don't even know what that is. But see, this is where this comes in handy, actually. So I'll go through this right here, and what I would do is just do my best to bend this, the best you can to kind of protect other things on the board. That's just to hold it in place. Okay, so I'm going to try to get my microscope on here, and I will actually show removing this right here. So let's see about getting this microscope here going. All right. There it is right there. All right. This microscope is crazy how close it gets. Okay, so we're just going to do the best we can. Sorry it's so zoomed in. Little flux just to help the solder do its thing. All right, now depending on which way you go, you are going to have an issue with the plastic on this melting, but it doesn't really matter because you're replacing it. Obviously, you're not going to use a Wagner paint removal heat gun to put it back on. You just want to get it out of there. Then you can use your soldering iron to replace it. Okay, so let's see. I guess this is the best angle for a little bit. So I put it on low because this thing puts out some pretty good heat once it gets hot enough, and lots of air. Oops. Oh, I was on the wrong one. Okay, there we go. So it's hard to see if it's melting or not. Not yet, but you can see it bubbling. So if you hold it here long enough, you can kind of see the board itself gets a little bit, it can kind of move a little bit or get deformed. So, you gotta kind of prop it up, be really careful how you do this. But eventually, I think I'll switch to the other camera here. Eventually, I got my tweezers in the jack. Very difficult to get this out of here. Like I say, this is why I didn't do this before. Alright. Being kind of a pain, so I think I'm going to do a couple things here. I think one is ooh, hot. Let's see. I think that I'm going to put a little bit of low melt solder on this to see if that will help get this solder to flow. A lot of times getting the factory solder to do anything is a pain. All right. So, as I've always said, patience is everything. You have to be patient. Now, this is even difficult using this, but can you imagine trying to use your soldering iron and trying to get all of these to melt at the same time? I mean, it's hard enough getting one to melt. So, yeah. All right. So, we'll get some solder here. We're going to make this work for sure. All right. See that solder joint? Perfect. Okay, and I think we got a couple on this side to do. One in the back too. Let's see about that. There we go. All right, and then this one right over here. And looks like put a little bit there, a little bit there. See how quickly it melts now. Okay, so that should be enough. I'm actually going to leave the foil off the main part now, just to protect my solder there. Okay. This should be a lot quicker now, hopefully. Look at that ball in the back. That'll kind of give us an idea of when that turns shiny, and that means it's melted. Yeah, I might go from the other side, I think. Let me try that. This is being a little more difficult, but that's okay. A little difficult compared to what I thought it would be, because I've done this so many times. So many times in the past. All right, we'll put that like that. All right. Don't know if I can get my... Let's see, push it back a bit. Well, there's our jack right there. All right, so now all right. Give this one more shot here. It's hard when I have to go at an angle here. That solder is just about to the melting point. Just about. There it goes. There it goes. All right, we got the one side trying to come out. And there we go. All right. So now, melted my solder roll there. All right. So now we've got to the point where we have a jack that we removed without causing all sorts of damage to the board. And that looks great. I was getting a little worried that this wasn't going to work for a minute there. All right, so I'm not going to put one back in necessarily, but I will do what my wife always tells me is very satisfying to watch, and that is cleaning the pads. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go. And see, we'll get this cleaned up. Actually, I only have my small tip on here, so I think it would be smart to just go ahead and switch it out to the one that we really want to use, which is the chisel looking one. You know, I will say one thing about this soldering iron that I have. It heats up very quick. I don't really know what brand it is. I got it on Amazon for about 40 bucks. All right. So, it's already ready to go, it looks like. All right. So, solder wick. Satisfying. Can't think it's all the way done yet. Yeah, I can't tell if that's all the way through. I think it is actually. Yep. See how easy that is. And then we bring it up here. Cut off a little more solder wick to get the fresh stuff. And then hit it one more time. Right there. Wow, that is pretty damn satisfying. And just get this last one here. So it goes to show you, it's like having the right tool is important, but you don't necessarily have to have the quote-unquote right tool. Believe it or not, you can accomplish the same thing with something else that's, unexpected. Yeah. My soldering iron is dirty. one last bit of flux to finish this up. There we go. That one's being kind of a pain, but if you learned in this video channel I have that I don't really give up, and sometimes because of that my videos are too long. There, I see something happening now. Done. Alright guys, so now you could take your jack, the new one we'll say, and then pop it right through these holes. I mean, this is the old one, so it's got solder and everything on it, but you kind of get the idea. And then solder it in place. Done deal. Okay, I hope you found this video to be fun to watch, helpful maybe. And if you are going to try this, be really, really, really careful. I can only do this because I've practiced at it for many years using these, you know, very primitive methods that I use to do this. But if you want to do it, these two things right here, they saved the day. Thank you. Have a great day.